Okay. And so we are now being recorded. Ladies and gentlemen, Happy New Year. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Alex Goldfayn. My company is the Revenue Growth Consultancy. It's called the Evangelist Marketing Institute. I grow companies. This webinar is about revenue growth in 2017. So I want to talk to you about what you can do to grow your sales easily, quickly, dramatically, and without financial investment. So today's session is about how do we grow by techniques that cost nothing, that are fast to do, that are not complicated to do, and yet we don't do them. And so we're going to talk a little bit about why we don't do them today also. Now, I need to begin with something very, very important, and that is this thing on the screen right now. This is the single most important thing that I'm going to talk about today. It is the single most helpful and impactful and interesting thing I'm going to talk about today. Our Chicago Cubs, which is where I live and work, which is the team that I grew up rooting for, which is where I went to when I was 4 years old with my dad to root for the Chicago Cubs, are World Series champions. And as I sit here and look at this, I have a hard time believing it even now that this happens, but that this happened. And there's a lot of Chicago people that feel this way. So there it is. I see a Go Tribe comment. Thank you very much. How's my family? My family is great. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it. Folks, if you want to talk to me, the Q&A box is where to go to do that. I need you to type your question, please, just like some of you folks are doing. And I will look at it and I will respond. And maybe we'll do the whole webinar while this Wrigley Field marquee is on the screen. Would that be okay with you? No, I'm kidding. I joke. I wanted to give away a few books today, and the way we'll do this, let's call it 3 books. I'll sign them, I'll personalize them. After the webinar, there is a 3-question little survey that pops up that's going to ask you how did you like the webinar and what you think, and just fill it out and send it back to me, and I will randomly pick 3 folks to send the book to. It's a hardcover book. I'll sign it, I'll personalize it, I'll do it myself. So just do that. Watch for that after the webinar, and click send, and that'll get you in. So, folks, what we're doing today is talking about a way to help you sell more and make more money. Everything we talk about today is around how do we generate more sales and more revenue. And the way that I do this is by building a revenue growth habit at your company. And so this is about creating a system of behaviors, which is what it boils down to. And we'll talk about today that this is a system of communications behaviors. Communications behaviors is what grows sales. Not market research, not planning or preparing. Board meetings sure as heck don't grow sales. If you want to not take action, take something to a board meeting. That's a great way to kill action. So really, the thing that grows sales the easiest and the fastest and the most dependably, really the most certainly, is by communicating with your customers and prospects habitually, systematically. And we're going to talk about that today. Now, I want to tell you, before people start wondering where the specific techniques are, today's session is split in half. The first half is about mindset, is about how we think, how we go at this process of revenue growth, because I think it's the most important thing. I think the way that we think about our business, our company, our product, our services, and critically ourselves is the way that we sell them. So I want to talk about thinking a little bit. It's also the topic of my next book, which is around the psychology of selling and the psychology of revenue growth. It's Carol Dweck's mindset for selling, basically. And so we're going to spend the first half of this talking about how we think, and the second half of this webinar is about specific actions that we can take. And I'm reading your congrats on the question and answer box. Thank you very much, even from the Yankees fans. Thomas, I appreciate it. I want to share with you some client results from the last year, because I want to show you guys that I'm not just talking about this stuff, that this stuff works, and that we know this works, and that we're not guessing that it works, and we're not hoping that it works, and we don't wish that it works. We know that this works. Everything I'm going to tell you today, I tell clients. Everything that I teach, I do myself. and I help my clients do it. So this is not some professorial theory from a university office. This is a practical technique that we know works. So I have a $100 million retailer client that was up 20% in revenue in their second month of working with me and applying this stuff. Now think about that. In their second month of implementation, they were up by 20%. They hadn't been up in years before this. I have a $7.5 million wholesaler client that grew by 33% in their first year of doing this work. Net profits were up by 30%. You think that's interesting to the owner? A distributor's close rate on the quotes that they sent out went up from 40% to 85%. Now, can I interest you in a doubling of the close rate of your proposals? That's pretty compelling. A $35 million manufacturer was up 15% in their first full year of applying my concepts. Again, a business where growth is very difficult, they were up 15%. So my typical client grows by 10 to 20% in their first year of doing this work. 15 to 20%. So if you do some of these things that you will learn, you can expect similar results. Now, what I tell my clients, and when I teach these workshops to clients, I teach them to the client's staff. So customer-facing people, salespeople, customer service people, marketing people, and executives. What I tell these folks is the same thing that I'm showing you here on the screen. This is a permanent initiative. This is not a diet. So if you want to grow business, it has to be permanent. You have to start it and not stop it. It has to keep going. As we all know, diets start and then they fade away, and then the weight comes back. So this is not a diet. This work here is a lifestyle change. This is the way that it is now. Once you decide to start this, this is the way that you do things now. The difference between going to an event and learning about something and then going back to your office and coming back into your, real world, your old world, and never doing anything again, versus actually applying it and doing the work is as follows. And by the way, we've all been there where we go to a conference and we learn something, and then we come back to our desk and the phone starts to ring, right? Customers start to call. Our colleagues start to stop by our desks. Fires are put back onto our desk, and we have to respond to the fire, or else we'll burn our eyebrows off, won't we? We have to deal with the fire. We're in the customer service business. So the magic number is something like 36 hours. If you don't apply something that you've learned at an event or on a webinar like this, within 36 hours, it's gone forever. You'll never do it. That's what the research says. So after this, I'd like you to do something. And so the difference between going to an event and not doing anything versus implementing and creating a habit are these 3 bullets on the screen. Number 1, regularly make a plan. And in my world, we do it weekly. Number 2, track the results. So make a plan and track the plan. Make a plan. On Monday, I will follow up on 3 quotes and ask 2 did you know questions. Number 2 is track the plan, which means how did that go? Did you do it? What were the results? Who did you talk to? Who did you follow up with? What are the dollar amounts? We track it. It has to be tracked. I'm telling you how I do this with clients. This works. Number 3, we have to report on those results to someone that is expecting that report. And that's the accountability piece of this. So there has to be accountability. We have to make a plan, track the outcome of it in detail, and then send the plan to somebody who is waiting for it, who will come after us and ask us, where's the plan if they don't get it? And that's what I implement for clients. That program, this stuff that's on the screen right now, is absolutely critical to the success of habit building, to the success of implementation. Let's see here. Carol Dweck is an APS member. That's great. Book 3, well done, says Bill Sanders. Thank you. And have you found if a customer does not respond within 36 hours and you do not follow up, The deal usually does not happen, asks Michael. No, because every industry is different. Some industries take 2 weeks or 2 months to respond, or sometimes there's a construction project that won't be awarded for 2 years. So no, not necessarily, and I think that number would depend on your world, but I bet you have a number. I bet everybody has a number of a lack of response, but then we have to follow up. We must follow up on that, Michael. We can't just wait for the customer to call us. We've got to follow up with the customer. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But here's the 3 things that we have to do to create not just a learning moment that fades away within 36 hours, but a habit at your place of business. And I keep saying this word because revenue growth is a habit. My book is called The Revenue Growth Habit. Our lives are run by habits. And if we are not intentional about our habits, which is a wonderful word here, if we are not intentional about our habits, then other habits kind of create themselves and take over. For example, what you do when you get out of bed is a habit. Some of us, not me, but some of us go to work out when we get out of bed or exercise. Other people, me, we go straight to the coffee maker, and that's our waking up habit. Other people read the newspaper, other people go to the iPad, and other people lay there and nap for an hour and a half until they're all the way woken up. So procrastination is a habit, actually. Avoiding things, we get good at that, actually. That's a habit that many people develop without trying to. Some people are exceptionally good at procrastination, and I'm sure you can think of some right now. One of them might be you. When we don't want to do something, we are exceptionally good at avoiding it. So we have to be intentional about our habits, which means we have to plan them and we have to want to do them. We have to go about executing them. And so revenue growth is a habit. We must teach the revenue growth habit to you and your colleagues, to the people sitting around you, to the people who do the selling and the customer service at your firm. Prisco Panza says a healthy habit. Yes, sir. Some habits are healthy and some are not. That's how it goes. Hi, Prisco. Happy New Year to you. Prisco is a client at Wind Supply, Shelton Wind Nelson. This is where you want to go for all of your plumbing supply and HVAC. So a lot of this work has to do with beliefs. Beliefs are an incredibly important part of sales and marketing. And one of my very favorite quotes, I've got 2 quotes in here. Many of you, if you know my work, if you follow my work, you've seen these quotes before, but I don't care because I only use like 2 quotes. And here they are. Henry Ford, who you all have heard of, said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So if you pick up the phone to go try to sell and you think you can make the sale, there is a chance that you will. However, if you pick up the phone and you think you cannot make the sale, if you don't believe that you can make the sale, I can guarantee that you will not make the sale. I can promise you that you won't make the sale. I'll bet my children's college money, which is very important to me, that you will make the sale. So it's all about beliefs. It's all about beliefs. Steve Capon says, I cannot see the questions that are being asked here. On your GoToMeeting control panel, there's a question and answer box. And I don't know if you all can see each other's, but I can see yours. So if they come up, I'm going to read it. And then I don't know, Steve, that you need to see the questions, but there's a questions box in your control panel. Now, as you sit here with me today, you have a choice. And the choice is as follows. We can choose to think about how these approaches and systems and techniques, which once again, we know work, we can choose to think about how they can work for us and how to apply them, how to integrate them, how to use them, which ones might work for us. So that's choice number 1. That's the choice in my left hand. In my right hand, I have the other choice. This is garbage. This isn't going to work for me. I don't need this stuff. I know how to sell. What does this guy know about my business? He doesn't know lumber. He doesn't know supply, right? Pipes and valves. What does he know about my work? He doesn't know printing. Well, you could think that, or you could think the other way. How can this work? And so we have that choice, folks, in everything that we do, in everything that we come across. We can try to figure out how to make it work, or we can resist it. And if you go through your life resisting things, you're not open to learning and growing. And so you're not going to get much better. You're kind of going to be what it is now, who you are now. And again, Carol Dweck's mindset, right? Some people are open to growth and oriented to growth, and other people are resistant to it. So that's the choice that we have. Now, I want to share with you something I've only shared in one other place before, and that's a speech a couple of months ago that I did. I did a keynote for the ATRA, who might be on this webinar. And I write a column for associations, and it runs monthly. And this is something that I do for free, and I distribute it out to, I don't know, a dozen or a couple dozen. I think it's probably 18 or 24 associations by now. It's a column that's syndicated out. And I got an email back from one of the readers, and the column that they were commenting on was about the trends that I see for 2017 and how to react to them. And one of the trends that I wrote is that the economy is growing, and here's what it means to you. Here's how to sell and market in a growing economy. And the subject line from the reader came in, looked like this: strong economy, LMFAO. That was the subject. So my interest was piqued, and I clicked over. I just read your opinion piece in Gears for October-November 2017. I say opinion because clearly facts elude you. Quote, the U.S. economy is strong and getting stronger. That's what I wrote. Then ... I almost fell off my chair laughing. You call 1% growth strong? You should work for the Clinton campaign. The campaign was just winding down, so this person thought I should have worked there. I understand trying to stay positive, but Holly SHIT, dude, give me a break. There's the email. So what choice did this person make? And by the way, I read this at the association from which this person wrote, and I was kind of secretly hoping they were in the audience, but I don't know if they were. They did not identify themselves. Nor would I have, probably, honestly, identified myself. So this person had a choice. They could choose to believe that the economy is in fact growing and doing well, and choose to think about how to go about operating their business in that economy. And this person is an owner of a small business. And that's as far as I'll go of identifying them. So they could choose to think that things are in fact improving, which they factually are. And how can I sell and market in that environment? Or they can choose to think that 1% growth, if that's actually the growth, I think it's actually higher than that, but let's call it 1%, is awful, and I can't do anything in 1% growth. And it's impossible for me to make money. Now, if you think like that, how will you behave? That is why we begin with mindset. We have to think the right way, folks. We can only sell and market what we believe. Now, wrap your minds around that, because that's an important point. We can only sell and market what we believe. So we have to believe the right things. We must believe that we can grow in this environment. Otherwise, we literally can't. It's physically impossible if we don't believe that we can. And this person here doesn't believe that they can. And by the way, I went back to check. I looked at the Dow, and then I looked at the S&P. And from the day that this person wrote to today, it's up about 14%. So that's a pretty growing economy, wouldn't you say, in 2.5 months? Now, I know the reasons for that, and I know what's been happening in our country, and I get all that. But in fact, the economy is up 14% since they wrote their email. Do you think they've taken advantage of it? I don't think they have. So we have a choice to make. Now, another thing I talk about frequently is perseverance and resilience. And so another person from positive psychology, the person from positive psychology, Martin Seligman, who's in his 80s and still running the Department of Psychology at the University of Pennsylvania, the founder, the father of positive psychology. He said in a live speech that I got to watch him do that perseverance and resilience are twice as important to success as talent is. So think about that. Perseverance and resilience, 2/3 of the equation. Talent, 1/3. That's why people who are less good but don't give up often do better than people who are better but do give up, but don't persevere. So more than half, 2/3 of success in our lives, ladies and gentlemen, is about trying again. Which in our world, let me ask you this question. Does no ever really ever mean no? I said ever twice. Does no ever really mean no forever? It does not. What does it mean? It means not right now. It means try again. It means come back to me and ask me again. It means not at this moment. That's what no means. Bart says, how do you work with somebody who already thinks that they are good enough and they happen to be pretty good at sales? You have to get their buy-in, Bart. You have to show them that they can get even better. And so if they say, I'm already the number 2 writer, you say to them, well, how do you know you shouldn't be the number 1 writer? If they tell you they're already the number 1 salesperson, you say back to them, how do you know you shouldn't be making 30% more than you are now? I could show you how. This is how. That's how you deal with them. You have to show them. And you also, we just had this call with a client. This was interesting. Some of the salespeople who are more senior, who are more established, are also the better salespeople, right? They've been around the longest. They have the biggest customers. And they will resist doing new things as a rule. So what you do is you show them their younger and newer counterparts catching up to them. You show them the younger people getting closer. And so you use 2 things to your advantage there. You use pride, their pride, the top writer's pride, and you use fear. They don't want to be caught. They know better. I mean, they're announcing to the world that they know better. I know that I don't need this. I already know. And yet here's all these people catching up to you doing this. So maybe you should try it too. Otherwise, you won't be number 1 for long. So use ego and fear and pride to move them. Prisco says he sees the world from a pessimistic point of view, and he is right because he believes this. That's right. How you think is how you perceive things. Last quote of the day, folks. Thomas Edison, who knows a thing or two about failure, said, my favorite quote in all the world here on the screen right now. Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. How about that? How good is that? So many times success is only 1 step away. 1 more effort. You got no 7 times. So what the hell's another no? Who cares about another no? You've already heard 7 of them from this person. So what do you care about the 8th or the 9th one? To this point, I can trace back millions of dollars in business, literally millions of dollars in business, in my business, that I got from people who told me no at first, that I never would have worked with if I didn't persevere. Sometimes I'm working with active clients who the vast majority of them said no first. And so what I've determined in my mind is when I hear no, I know that I'm 80% of the way to a yes. So I get a no and I say, all right, almost there, let's go. Call you next week. They're saying no, and I'm saying I'll talk to you next week. Because I don't know when success is going to come. Neither do you. I don't know when they're going to need me, and I owe it to them. I owe it to them to reach out to them and offer my help again. So, the way to improve your mindset is not to sit down at your desk and say that, I'm good and I really help people and start writing things in a journal. That's not how to improve your mindset. How to improve your mindset is to listen to what your customers say about you and to talk to your customers about yourself, about how they think about you and how they view you and what you do for them. And so you ask some of your better customers, what do you like best about working with us? And you listen to the answer. And they will tell you things like you are reliable, you are dependable, you help them a great deal, you help them look good to their customers, you save them time, and you grow their business. That's what they'll tell you. They will not talk about your product. Why? Why won't they talk about your product? Because the product is usually not the interesting thing. The product is the boring thing. The interesting thing is the relationship and how you help them and the value. And so listen to what your customers say. If you listen to what your customers say enough, this is what happens. You become more positive, more confident, more bold, and happier. And guess what happens to your behavior if you are these things that are on the screen right now? How do you behave differently if you are these things, positive, confident, bold, and happy? Well, you pick up the phone more. You ask for the business more. You help people more. You don't hesitate. And the research shows that each one of these words, the more you are positive, confident, bold, and happy, the more you will sell. The more your revenue will grow. And so a core part of my projects, in my revenue growth habit building projects, is me talking to customers, recording those calls, and then playing them back for the staff so the staff can hear how good their customers think they are. And I need you guys to think and talk about yourselves and your work a little bit more like your customers do. More positively, more bold, more energetically, more enthusiastically, more emotionally, and for God's sake, more focused on the value. Not so much focused on the product. And so the way to grow is to be aware of your great value and to behave accordingly, which is boldly. You have to know how good you are and then behave accordingly. And the way that you know how good you are is to hear it from your customers. Now, what stops us from talking to customers and what stops us from doing this work? It's this ugly, damnable word on the screen right here. Fear. Do you guys know what hit me like a ton of bricks a year or so ago? And I started to think and write about this and talk to people about this, and it's exactly right. That salespeople, many salespeople, are more afraid of rejection. So our fear of failure and rejection is greater than our need to feed our family. Think about that. Think about the power of that. Our fear of rejection is greater than our need to feed our family. It's absurd, except it's accurate. So we would rather not ask for the business, not go for the close, and avoid the potential of hearing no than actually ask for the business. How many times have you been ready to pay one of your providers if only they would have asked? You had your wallet in your hand and you're ready to go, but they don't ask, so you don't pay. I have a client, interesting story, where their supplier was a large, big customer for this supplier. My client was the customer, and the supplier screwed up, made a mistake, made a big mistake, big screw up, and really got yelled at, got reamed out, got chewed out. With the buyer, my client was very angry, and that supplier never called them again. And this was 3 years ago. And I asked my client, were you a big customer for the supplier? And he says, yeah, we're about $3 to $5 million a year. And that company was about 20 million. So a huge customer, right? Never heard from him again. I asked my client, would you be buying from them if they talk to you? He says, yeah, for sure. I want to buy from them, but I've never heard from them. I said, why don't you call them and do the work? Ask for work with them. He goes, I don't want to call them. I want them to call me. I want to know that I'm important to them. And so because of this stupid word on the screen, fear, which gets in the way of all good things, it gets in the way of more good things than anything else. Because of fear, that company's missed out on $3 to $5 million a year and a good customer and a good relationship because they never came back. They just assumed. And so, such is the size of their fear of rejection and failure. So we've got to deal with this. The way to deal with fear is to understand that it's only in your head. It's not real. It's our imagination. And so identify the fear. And then play it out. What's the worst that can happen? If I get rejected, what happens then? Death? Do I die? Will they take away my children? Will the roof blow off our house if I get rejected by this customer? What happens, folks? Nothing happens. No. So what is this crazy fear? It's our duty to help our customers. That's why we're in the world. It's our job to help people. We owe it to them. So let's help them. Second half, techniques for growth. I checked the questions. Screen is still on perseverance. Are you guys with me? Does this say techniques for growth on the screen? Can you give me a yes if it says techniques for growth? Yes, thank you. Okay, so we're good. We got a lot of yeses. That seemed to be an individual glitch. Thank you very much. I believe in the market. I enjoy cold calling, but I'm having a difficult time believing in products as I don't have all facts and data needed to feel 100% comfortable. Okay, Tracy, write me that offline and we'll talk about it, okay? It's something that's quite specific to you. My philosophy, says Stacy Hudson, is a no is as good as a yes. You can move on and come back to that sale another time. Yeah. Yes, I tell my customers, listen, the very worst thing is silence. Just don't be silent. Tell me no tomorrow. I'm good with a no. I chase the no's because I know I'm close to the yes then. I'm getting closer. Now, some of the no's are, in fact, never to come back as a yes, and that's okay. But many of the no's come back as a yes. I would say, as I think through it, more than half of the no's that I've ever gotten, more than half, turn into a yes over time. And it's probably also true for you. So why stop at a no, for God's sake? Christina says, tell Stacy I say hi. All right, there you go. Christina G, Stacy H. Hello to you both. Now, general techniques for growth, folks. Communicate personally. These are techniques for revenue growth in 2017. Generally, communicate personally. Do the work that is required to talk to people one-on-one. We don't hear a lot of one-on-one communication anymore. Think about your own lives, right? How many one-on-one calls do you actually have anymore that aren't conference calls? There aren't many. So communicate personally as a theme. Number two, communicate relentlessly. Communicate constantly. Don't stop communicating. Communicate all the time. Number three, never worry about over-communicating because it's impossible. You cannot over-communicate because the people receiving your communications are really, really busy. So how many times has a customer told you, I didn't know you did that, right? How many times have you had that conversation? I didn't know you did that. And you say to them, but I just told you about it a week ago. And I know it was you because you were looking at me just like you are now. And a week ago, you also told me, I didn't know you did that. I have a client that sells furniture. This client the salesperson will take a customer and walk with them past the mattress department and take them to the piece of furniture that they're looking for. And the person might even be observed turning their head to see the mattresses, but they have no idea the store sells mattresses. So just because you tell somebody something doesn't mean they know. So think about that. Just because you communicate something doesn't mean that person knows about it. So never assume what you've communicated has landed. Always err the other way and communicate things as much as possible. Number four, the more that people hear from you, the more they buy from you. The more that we communicate, the more we sell. The less that we communicate, the less we sell. So it's not an accident that the word in all of these now, communicate personally, communicate relentlessly, don't worry about over-communicating, and the more that people hear from you, the more they buy from you. The more that you communicate, the more people buy. Not an accident that the word communicate is in all of these. If you want to sell more, communicate more. That's it. That's how complicated this is. I always tell people this is incredibly simple work. This is not hard work. This is incredibly simple work. Just communicate more. It's simple for me to talk about. It's simple for them to hear and grasp, but it's not so simple to do. And so the doing of it is kind of the rate determining step. So will you do it? I'm going to give you some specific techniques now. I'm going to give you some very specific things to do. Folks, will you do it? Will you do the work? And it's okay to ask for help too. It's okay to work with somebody who knows how to do this. I check the questions. Thomas says it took him 2 years to get the first order from one of his very best customers. Good work, Thomas. Congratulations. That's exactly right. And now you could tell him how silly he was saying no to you all those years. All right, the actions, folks. Here we go. And jump in with questions, okay? So I'm checking the Q&A box. Feel free to jump in here with questions and with comments. I'll read them and I'll share them. Number 1, use the phone. I can't believe how much money I get paid for telling people to use the phone. By the way, there are some of you on this webinar who have never seen this incredible device that I have on the screen here. That is called a wired telephone for the young people. And there was also another wire. There were 2 wires in that thing. It's crazy, a 2-wired item. That the other wire went into the wall, stretched from the phone into the wall. And there's literally people on this call that have never seen one of these in real life, which I love. I like to do that. So I have a lumber client, and some of you will know this because we talked about this at the recent NALA meeting in Las Vegas, and they talked about it themselves. They were in the room. I have a client whose salespeople were their job is to sell, and they mostly sold from the office. Guess how many hours per week they were on the phone? In fact, think about your own company. How many hours a week do your salespeople spend on the phone? Take a guess, and then I'll tell you what the average is. The average number of hours that people spend on the phone, salespeople, across all companies, all industries per week. Ready? Not 20 hours. 4 to 5 hours per week on the phone. 4 to 5 hours a week is how long the average salesperson spends on the telephone. Now, you work 40 or 45 hours, right? And you're only spending 10% of that on the phone, and your job is to sell. So what the hell are you doing? What are you doing the other 40 hours or 35 hours? So this client, we found this out, and we said, let's increase the number. And first we took it from 4 to 6, and then from 4 to 8, and then from 4 to 10, and then now we're at 12, and then we got to 15. Anyway, they're at about 15 hours now. What do you think their sales have done? When their customers and prospects are hearing from them on the phone, nearly 4 times as much as they were before. Yeah, you're damn right it's growing like crazy. It's growing a whole lot. Increase your phone time, guys. Make the call. Don't email, make the call. Why do we revert to email? Because the rejection on the phone is personal. It comes into our ear. It's that word fear that we had on the screen before. People are fearful of using the phone. It used to be that the phone is all we had. Now we revert to email, I would guess, 90% of the time. That's why only 4 hours a week is on the phone. Use the phone. Think about it yourself. How many sales phone calls do you even get? Not many. Most people don't like to call. If you want to stand out, use the phone. As a technique for starting out the year, this is the second technique, call everybody you talked to last year who said no to you. And reach back out to them again. Use the year changing as an excuse to communicate. Hey, Tom, listen. It's 2017. Happy New Year. We didn't come together last year. Where are you at on this now? I wanted to reach out to you in the new year. Anytime the calendar changes is a good time to call and reach out again. The quarter changing is a good time. The month changing is a good reason to pick up the phone. Even the week changing. Listen, we talked last week. It's a new week. Just checking in. How you doing? Sometimes the hour changing is good. Tried you at 11. It's 3 o'clock now. How you doing now? Ready to go? Just like that. I was calling a guy yesterday on the phone as a follow-up to a speech that he was at in my audience. And he asked me to reach out to him, filled out one of my feedback forms, and asked me to follow up with him about a project. So I've been doing that. Now, he hasn't responded once. Do I care? No. And his employee, his staff member, picks up the phone, and we talk, and he takes a message. And I said, this is my fifth effort. But to him, that's a negative. To me, I'm proud of it because I had a record fourth quarter. And I'm proud of my fifth effort. And he says, you know what, if you don't hear from him, again, maybe just take it for what it is. He doesn't want to take any more messages. And I said to him, this was my answer. I laughed and I said, I'll talk to you next week. That was my response. Call everybody who told you no and use the year changing and check in with them again. Number 3, ask for the business, folks. Pivot to the sale. Ask for the business. So many of us don't. You should ask for the business from everybody you talk to. Everybody. You're talking to them. They're taking their time. You're taking yours. Close the sale. Pivot to the business. What are some ways to ask for the sale? You should come up with a list of 4 or 10 or 40 ways to ask for the sale. Keep it in front of you and ask every time. You ready to write it up? Would you like to use credit, or are you going to send us a check? Cash or credit card? We've got some of those in stock. I've got a truck going out today. Let's put the order in. Would you like to add it to this order, or should we write it up separately? Ready to roll? Let's go. Be confident, be bold, assume the sale, and ask for the business. You will get a lot of the business that you ask for, but you will get none of the business that you do not ask for. I'm amazed at the people who call me to sell and don't ask for the business. I mean, you've done the hard part. You've gotten me on the phone. Ask for the business. No, they don't, because they're afraid. They don't want to hear a no, because then death comes. Ask for the business. Pivot to the sale. Make a list and ask for the business. I know it's simple. I know that you know this. There's nothing I'm teaching you today, folks. Not one thing that we are talking about today that you don't already know. I know you know these things. But the question is, are you doing them? Are you doing these things? And for most of you, the answer is probably no. You're probably not doing these things. So do them. Number 4. Ask the did you know question. Did you know that the typical customer is only aware of about 20% of what you can sell them? 20% is the number. That means they cannot buy 80% of what you can offer them, which means that they're buying it somewhere else probably. So think about that. They love working with you. You help them out a great deal. They love buying from you, and you love selling to them. You love their money. Why not? And the relationship, but they pay their bills. Both of you would like to work together more. They would like to buy more from you. They need this other stuff that you sell. Not all of it, but some of it. They go elsewhere to buy it. They have to manage extra suppliers. They have to do multiple POs, multiple invoices, multiple carriers, multiple problems to deal with. They'd like to buy it from you. You'd like to sell it to them. None of that is possible because they don't know. Let them know. Ask the did you know question on every conversation and every email that happens. Every conversation you have, did you know we also do X or Y or Z? With my clients, we write out 40 or 50 of these on the spot. Well, we only sell lumber. We don't really do anything else. Come on. What kind of lumber? What lengths? What kind of finishing? How are you going to get it to them? Carload, rail car, or truckload? What kind of delivery are we talking about? And on we go, and we come up with 40 on the spot. Expand your minds, come into it with an open mind, and make a list of your did you knows, and then let people know how you can help them. Number 5. The reverse did you know is a newer technique. It's not in the book. It's a really effective technique, and the question goes like this, the reverse did you know question. Tom, what else are you buying elsewhere that we may be able to help you with? And then let him answer the question with what else they're buying. Really effective technique. What else are you buying elsewhere that we might be able to help you with? They will name the product, and you will say, great, I got it. And then what do? We pivot to the sale. Would you like me to add it to this order, or should we write it up separately? Never just ask the did you know question and stop. Never just ask the reverse did you know question and stop. Ask the question, then pivot. Ask, pivot. Ask, pivot. Growing sales is nothing more than asking and pivoting. Asking and pivoting. Sally, did you know that I can do a one-time workshop for your company at your office with your entire team? It doesn't have to be a 6-month project. Sally says, no, I didn't know that. Say, Sally, would you like to set one of those up? Because I'm pretty full the next 3 months and I'd like to get you in. And then I'm quiet. I am silent until Sally answers the question. Pivot to the sale. They will appreciate you. They will actually appreciate you pivoting to the sale. Number 6. Quote follow-up. A quote and interest and proposal follow-up. Basically just following up. If you sent out a quote or a proposal, most people, most of the time, don't follow up on it unless it's big enough or interesting enough or compelling enough, because we're all busy. That customer I told you about at the beginning that said that their close rate on quotes went up from 40% to over 80%. Well, that customer simply started following up on every quote. And guess what happened? They started closing them. You know, we think people are going to get mad at us for following up. That's not what happens. You know what happens? They appreciate it. They're grateful for it. They're thankful for it. And even when they don't need that thing that you're following up on, they'll say sometimes, no, that's done. But what about this other thing that I need? Can you help me with that? And they bring that up because you're there. You are there and the competition isn't. The more that we communicate, the more people buy. These are all specific ways to communicate. What will you do? What will you do? What will you do today? It's going to be 1 o'clock when we're done with this. 2 o'clock on the East Coast, 11 o'clock on the West Coast. What are you going to do? Which thing will you try? You know what the good news about these techniques is? They only take but a minute or even a few seconds. So which 5 things are you going to try? Which 5 efforts will you make? Number 7. Tom, listen, we've been working together for a few years. Love working with you. I was just wondering, what % of your business in this product would you guess we have? Tom says 25%. You say, listen, kind of a small number. How do we get that to 35 or 40%? I'd like to help you more. What would that look like? I enjoy working with you. Let's do it more. Great technique, new technique, works really, really well. Now, for Tom to raise his business with you by 10%, it's a small increase because he takes 5% from that guy and 5% from that guy and sends it over to you. But for you, moving from 25 to 35% is damn near 50% growth with Tom. Now you do that 20 times over and it gets interesting. It's not hard to grow sales. The key to this is to have all of your people asking this question. You shouldn't be the one asking the question. You should have all your people asking this question. Number 8, obtain referrals. Tom, love working with you. Who do you know like yourself who would benefit from working with me like you do? And now I'm silent on purpose because I want you to know what it feels like. Because Tom's thinking now. You've been agonizing about this referral for days and maybe weeks, but Tom hasn't been thinking about your referral. Let Tom think. Tom, who do you know like you who would enjoy working with me and who I would enjoy working with, more importantly. And you laugh and you listen and you don't talk. Most referrals are lost, number one, because we don't ask for them, and number two, because of fear, and number two, because of nervous chatter. We chatter away referrals. Ask for the referral and then count to 1,000 in your head if you have to. Sing a song. Sing happy birthday if you must. In your head, not out loud. That'd be weird. Sing it in your head. And let the person answer. Let them think. They're an adult. You're not doing anything mean to them. Let them think. All right. The communications should flow on two parallel tracks. One-on-one, across the top, salesperson to the buyer, and company to many, which is from the marketing to this is a list of people. So these are your newsletters. So you should send a good newsletter. This is number 9. And number 10 is a did you know email, which simply says, did you know we also do X or Y or Z, which is a kind of product or a different length or a different measurement or a service that you provide that people may not know about. But once a week, you send out a did you know email. And then on the next week, you send out a good newsletter. So a good newsletter every other week. And then on the in-between weeks, a did you know email. That's 9 and 10. Lots of questions and comments. Let's see. Sherwood Lumber is going to have one day where we only respond to emails with a phone call, says Bart. I like that, Bart. That's a good idea. That's good. Can you give an example of that for association service products like a trade show, booth, sponsorship? I don't know what the DAT is, Christina. I'm sorry. I'm going to assume it is referrals, or what % of your business? Can you clarify the question and then I'll respond? Chuck Provence, I would think the best way to follow up is a phone call rather than an email, hint, hint. Yes, sir. Follow up on the phone. And look, an email is better than nothing. It's okay to follow up by email. It's okay. But a phone call is always better. If you're ever wondering what's better, a phone call is always better. So Christina says on the percent question, so Christina, what % of your staff members would you guess are members of our association? And they say 20%. You say, listen, I'd like to get that up to 30% because I think the ones that are here really benefit. And let's help some more people in your company that way. Okay? All right. So a good newsletter every 2 weeks, and then on the in-between weeks, did you know emails. Those of you that might be jumping off, we haven't lost too many people yet. A couple hundred of you still with us. If you're jumping off, and I will be done by the top of the hour, I always am. If you're jumping off, there's going to be a 3-question survey, and fill it out. I'm going to select 3 names at random and send you a signed copy of my book, okay? Now, for the implementation of these things. So we went through mindset, how to think about your products and your services and your value. We went through the techniques, and now we go through implementation. And by the way, when I work with a client, we spend an entire day launching this for your group in a workshop. So you bring all your customer-facing people, and I've already talked to the customers. I've interviewed the staff. We've created your growth plan, and now we teach it. And the owner or the top executive leaders there in the room, helping to sort of translate things and so that everybody can see that they're there. And then we go off together and do the work and stay in touch with it daily and weekly. The key here is implementation. So some keys to implementation for communicating more. Number 1, systematize this. Find ways to make it systematic, like the deposit that you make into your savings account or into your retirement account that happens automatically. And if it didn't happen automatically, it simply wouldn't happen. Do you know what I'm talking about? Find ways to systematize this. Number 2, aggressively obtain buy-in. We talked about the senior salesperson who isn't buying in. Aggressively obtain buy-in. There are people who will poison the well for you on your company's initiative. That's not to be tolerated. That's not happening here. Obtain buy-in from people. Show people off who are doing well, right? So tell success stories all the time. And we use the elevating of people who are succeeding with this and showing everybody how much more money that they're making and how much better life is for them so that everybody else aspires. So we use a system of recognition for that. Obtain buy-in aggressively. Number three, we've got to do the work. Got to do the work. This doesn't happen if you don't do the work. Yes, it's a little elbow grease. This is, you know what this isn't, folks? This is not Google advertising. This is not Facebook advertising. Do you know why people like that stuff? Why do people like Google advertising? Because they don't have to do any work. Why do people like, you know, brand development or you know, Facebook friends or followers? Because there's no personal interaction there. Nothing's on the line. We don't have to talk to anybody. There's no chance of rejection. So we go to that crap. We fall back on it. Do the work. You deserve the revenue. You deserve to bring home more money to your family. And your customers and prospects deserve your help. Don't keep it from them because you're afraid of their rejection. Nothing happens when they say no. The only thing that happens is you get closer to the yes. Nothing happens. And finally, in terms of implementation, get an expert's help. You don't have to do this yourself. You're pretty busy. And I kind of wrote the book on this. All of this was out before me, but I put it together and I systematized it, and now I implement the systems for my clients. So if you're unsure about trying it and doing it yourself, there's no shame in that. You work with me and we'll know it's going to get done. Ask for help, work with me, your business will grow by 15 to 20% in year number one. That's what we do. Now I want to spend 45 seconds on what I do. We have 5 different options here to work together, and it's as you wish. Number one is the revenue growth habit at your company. This is a 6-month project where there's customer interviews, a launch workshop, 3 months of implementation. We do webinars like this during the implementation where people share their successes. And then we do another half-day workshop. So it's a pretty intensive revenue growth habit building. And these are the clients that grow by 15 to 20%. The second bullet is we can do a one-time live workshop for your staff, just a one-off. We can do executive coaching on the phone. I frequently, really once a week or so, do speeches for meetings, association meetings that need a speaker, sales kickoffs for clients, executive groups that meet. If you're at like a Renaissance Executive Forum or a YEO or a YPO, I speak to those all the time. And finally, something newer in my arsenal are remote custom programs that are webinar based. We teach like this, but we do it over an extended period of time, over months. And we make sure people are doing the work. That's the key to this, to make sure people are doing the work. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a happy new year. Thank you very much for being here. Push the gas down. Look, it's the start of a year. It's a time that's full of hope and promise and opportunity. And a lot of people feel that way. And to push the damn gas down. You help people in tremendous, amazing ways. Help them more. Help more people more. That's all this is. After we end the webinar, you'll get a 3-question survey. Please answer it, and I will select 3 people and send you signed, personalized books by mail. Thank you very, very much for being here. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Thank you for following and supporting my work. I'm grateful for that, and have a wonderful, successful, prosperous year.